And the saga continues. Behold, 1954 Huffy 24-inch. And why do I have a 24-inch bike? They're tiny. Being a normal human, there's a certain amount of nostalgia that's implanted within my DNA. And to me, 24-inch basic Huffy beach cruiser type of bicycle is highly significant because this was my cell phone when I was a kid. This was my computer. This was my Instagram. This was my whole being. It was pretty much, although I learned on a 16-inch when I just turned 4, this was my freedom. This was my ability to go out, explore trails, ride on the roads with my friends, get out and be active, have fun, and be an independent human being. The 24-inch represents so much to me. Now, if you're 70, in the 70s, this would have been your route to freedom. I'm a little younger than that. I'm just turning 60 this year, so I had what would be called I believe a cantilever frame that had the 2 tubes that come up here and not the single straight bar right there, because this was indeed a tank bike. It had a mock gas tank on it. But still, little 24-incher represents so much to me. I built my first jump ramp when I was 4, so it was on either a 16 or a 20-incher, but I continued it with this. Remember, I was in the newspaper one time because I jumped 32 garbage cans on my Schwinn Varsity and wound up breaking my arm, a compression fracture. I didn't crash, but it's another story. And I had my handlebars rigged this way. If you mess with the bull, you get the horns, as a tough little 10-year-old would say. But yeah, I'm thoroughly enjoying the process, and that's what it's about. Just like making bows and arrows, it's the process. You don't necessarily just want to run to Walmart and get something instant right there, but part of my being is patience, being able to build something, being able to plan, to dream, and this suits the bill nicely. It came with the frame and the forks, and thanks to Keith, if you're watching this, Keith, this is indeed a seat post that has a wedge here. I would have appreciated it if it was a little longer, but 7-inch is what you get. And so it will be more of a stand-up bike when I pedal it. I also have to say I ordered a pair of vintage, not 50s, because I don't believe BMX was around, but BMX handlebars that actually use the gooseneck here and not a pillow black. These rims, I could certainly go and get a tougher pair of rims to handle my 163-pound girth, but check this out. How often do you see white rims with red pinstriping? These things are cool. They're steel. They're only 28 spoke and not 36, so the ultimate strength won't be there, but I don't plan on doing severe drops with this. This is just, I'm going to do some trail riding, buzzing around, nostalgia-ing, and that's how it goes. So I have ordered, the handlebars should be here tomorrow. BMX handlebars, vintage. The seat, it's a person seat, and that's not in reference to a person will be riding it. That's the company name, Charles Person and et al. Actually handmade with love in the US of A. It's an old seat. It's reddish, which will go with this color scheme. And so I'm dreaming of the day when I can ride this around. Now, getting back to the whole idea that this is what kids used to do. Back when I was a kid, kids didn't just sit around on the couch eating crappy food and getting massively overweight. We were out there like little monkey children, riding bikes and climbing trees and swimming and getting in the various mischief, but it was all physical. It's not enough that we look back and say, we used to do this, we used to do this. Right now, no matter what your condition is, and I am not a world-class athlete by any means, but I am willing to put in the work to treat. Actually, I was running on the treadmill last night. The trails are too icy, the roads have ice. It's 16 degrees now, so it's relatively risky to run. So I go into the basement on the treadmill. I'm thinking that all of us, need to get back to our roots. Instead of just, it's one thing to say we used to do this, we got off our cell phones and we didn't have cell phones and we were just active all the time. We need to continue that. The controversial subject, trigger warning. I'm just kidding. Trigger warning is one of the stupidest things I've ever heard. If you're such a delicate orchid that you need a trigger warning because somebody might say something that upsets you, you're too weak to live. You know, that's ridiculous. But we should be treating every day like basic training. Every day. There's this big divide, this big nexus between groups of people now on every front. I'll say that we're spending way too much time just talking and too little time doing. I mean, the country runs on productivity, and all we're doing is sitting around weeping and braiding each other's hair. We need to understand that we are on a submarine that's suddenly being called to dive deep and somebody left a hatch open. So we need to be able to hold our breath and swim, metaphorically. And so we need to up our advantage. I'm choosing, and both are rational, endurance and slimming down over bulking up and being incredibly strong and muscular. It's just, that's my scheme. I think of myself as a clever rabbit with sharp claws, you know. If the zombie apocalypse hit and suddenly the zombies were about me, I'd grab a bow. I'm going to say bow because in these days you can get in trouble for saying other things. I'd grab a bow, and the first thing I would do would be to run. Now immediately you're saying, oh, John, you're a coward, you're not standing your ground. I would run, get an advantage, and then circle back. If the zombies came after me, because I am treating every day like basic training, I'm pretty confident that I'd be able to outrun and outdistance 90% of the zombies that came my way, which would allow me to circle back and get an advantage over them. That's all I'm saying. Yeah. Run, ride your bike, get back on it. Stop just saying when we were kids. Get your butt out there and start doing something. Learn how to do this, learn how to do that. I have to be careful because we're going into a new age here. You'll figure out what I mean. But take your nostalgia and put it to practical use. I'm going to have fun riding this thing. I will. The handlebars, the upper handlebars tilted forward, will give me enough room to actually function on this 24-inch bike. 5'11", 163 pounds, so, you know, this will certainly work for me and my purposes. I've got bigger bikes. I've got an old mountain bike in there, so this is just fun. We need fun. We need to be able to laugh. Now, as far as tires, you know, there's a great disparity. This came with an old pair of Kendas. These are probably ancient tires too, although they're never used. I wonder if they put new tires on this thing. I do need to buy a vintage coaster brake hub. I'm not going to put a new one from Parts Unknown on this. Bendix or some such thing. But the tires, it looks really cool with these 2.5-inch wide hookworms, but there's going to be an issue on the back tire that it'll have to be too far back on the chainstays. Is that what you call them? And so I am going to compromise. I'm going to go with, instead of, this is a 1 3/4 inch wide tire, which just looks too delicate and doesn't have a good balance. Compromise between this one and this 2.5-inch wide hookworm. I'm going to go, and I tested it with my other tires. 2.125 will give me plenty of clearance, and it might even allow me to put vintage fenders. Search it out. I do have a 60s era red rear fender. I would like to put fenders on this bike just because. And with the fenders, the old fenders actually had this heavy-duty steel bracket kind of midway on them to hold the rack. I think I might build a really nice wooden rear rack for this thing. And if I don't find the front fender right away, big deal. It's going to look kind of kitschy and cool. But that is all. That is my 10 cents of unasked for information. I'm going to pick up the camera now. Just get some close-ups on this thing. It's a really cool little bike. And then I'm going to go inside and begin the final coat of painting. Certain thing in the kitchen. You gotta admit, that has a certain cool factor to it. Wish I could use those big hookworms on there. Oh, here. One last thing. There's my car. Big deal. I'm being watched in the parking lot.